Hi, my name is Steve Richardson. I'm the CEO of BLAS. Today we'll talk about a tough topic, racism, and the different pieces of it.
Hi, my name is Gwen Todd. I am the treasurer. Also, I work alongside with Jermaine White with the spiritual enrichment.
My name is Todd Green. I'm Director of Arts, specializing in spoken word.
And I'm Jermaine White. Again, I work with Ms. Gwen in the Spiritual Enrichment Department of BLAS. And we want to welcome you to the BLAS
Chop Shop. Chop it up.
As it was mentioned, we know that the subject matter that we're about to embark upon is a very delicate and volatile issue and subject matter. And so we want you to understand that we are representatives, not so much of a race, but of humanity.
Amen.
Yes.
Right?
That's good.
And we're going to speak on the subject matter from an unbiased vantage point. What we say, we entreat you not to take personally. It's in no way intended to offend you, but to inform you.
Right.
And I believe that we are civil enough and that we are concerned enough and considerate enough about one another that we can, as civilized adults, discuss subject matters as such.
Yeah.
And so we just want you to know we love you. And we're not by any means vilifying any category of people. We're just identifying an issue that has been plaguing humanity for a long time. Absolutely. So we're asking you to join us in this discussion. And again, we welcome your remarks under the commentary here on YouTube. So we're just looking forward to this because I believe that if we can discuss this, being considerate of others with an open heart, that we can actually move toward remedial means and efforts in confronting and combating the issue of racism. So, without further ado, family, let's discuss the concept of racism. So, in your own words, how do you define racism?
Yeah, my thought process is any person or entity that tries to oppress or depress another group, race or ethnicity, and try for own personal gains, power, finances, and hold those people in a place where usually there's a lack of something to force them into what they want.
Awesome. Anybody else want to add to that?
I can really piggyback on what you were saying, Steve, as well. What racism to me and my thought process is when a race or group of people, depending on your skin color, oppress another person because of their skin, to keep them down, just to oppress them because of their race or culture.
Yeah, that's good.
Ty, how about you? You want to add to that?
Yeah, I totally agree with Ms. Gwen and Steve. And one of the things Steve pointed out about lack, and they both spoke on the oppression, and I feel like we're in an area that have lack, it's easy to manipulate because it's like you're holding something from them.
Yep.
So I think those things go hand in hand.
That's good.
Absolutely. That was well articulated. I think I would only be repeating what you all said. I like to add any kind of animosity, any discriminatory treatment toward a particular person simply because their skin color.
Exactly.
differs from yours.
Right.
So they don't have any control.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and so that's a reality, and here's the issue now. The reality is that no race is immune to racism.
Not at all.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Not at all.
And that's a hard pill to swallow for some of us, but the reality is no one.
Yeah.
It's a human race
Yeah.
issue. It's a human race issue. So my next question is, and there's been some debate on this, and so from your own personal observation, is racism systemic here in America, or is it just an issue of random individuals?
Systemic in America.
And when you say, when we talk about it being prevalent, systemic, why do you say that?
Because the way this country was built, you take one race to build, to get, to keep another race in power.
Okay.
Back to oppression
Right.
and trying to keep that power. You know, so, yeah, here in America, it was built on that. Yeah. It's systemic.
Yeah.
So how about you, Steve? Do you see it as systemic?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I go back to a piece of what Ms. Gwen said. You know, we were kind of born into it.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
this is something that built this country, unfortunately. That certain people have to endure certain things that, you know, the African American race had to endure some of these things, such as other races also. But you know, we just look at how everything was put together and built, and then, you know, like we were talking about before, we're not too far removed from actual slavery. So, you know, there's a lot of pieces to the slavery piece. So yeah, I definitely think that it's systemic.
Todd, how about you?
I totally agree that it's systemic. It's just that racism is such a vast topic. There's so many different avenues, because you can hop off one race and jump right to another race and see where they were treated in a way of racism, you know. Like for the Jews, with our history.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh
You
yeah,
know,
definitely.
So,
Yeah.
but like we were saying earlier, it's been over a long period of time. I recall growing up in Galveston, me and my friends would run up to the beach from the projects, you know. It was a nice little hike, but we would still go up to the beach. Now, we're playing on this beach as kids, but this is the same beach where the slaves were docked in at.
Wow.
Wow, really?
Yeah, Galveston Seawall Boulevard.
Yeah.
So we're,
Wow.
and I mean, it's still there today. It's just, but like you say, it was such a long period of time, you know, and so much happened that it's sad to say that a lot has changed, but a lot hasn't
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like embedded.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sure,
It's
sure,
embedded,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And I do agree, you know, and again, it's not to point the finger at anyone.
No.
It's just a present reality. It is systemic in our society. It's woven all through forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
You look at institutions, whether it's financial institutions, education.
Yeah, education.
judicial,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
so
such a
forth.
vast time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
You see it
It's
in
put into everything.
government,
Exactly.
in media,
Yeah.
and so forth.
Yeah.
And I think we all can testify that it is systemic because we're all impacted by it.
Everyone.
I think if we're all honest and we take an honest introspection of our own hearts, we can identify some racial tension and bias even in our own selves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I think that alone is clear evidence that this is a prevalent issue that we're facing here in our culture and in our society. Absolutely. Understanding that we're all affected to some degree, share with us, if you would, your own perceived personal experience with racism.
I can remember a time where I was about 12 or 13. We had went down for a family reunion down to Alabama. And we got a chance to see where my grandparents had stayed before they moved up to Ohio. And they lived in a one-room shack and with 10 people.
Wow.
So, you know, we got a chance to see the people that actually live there now, you know.
Okay.
Well, at that time. And it was still like 7 or 8 people who lived in there, a family. You could see kind of right through it. You know,
Wow.
You know, and it's just amazing how we survive as a culture, as a people.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we were going through the backwoods. We actually stopped at a little store in the woods, I'm gonna say in the cut, but boondocks, right? Boondocks, the sticks, right. And then, you know, we got a chance to get out and stretch our legs, and you know, it was hot, man. It's hot. And we got a chance to, you know, ask, you know, the people if we could use the restroom.
Sure.
And they said it didn't work. So for us, man, we didn't understand that. You know, we were from the north, and we were just like, man, it don't have a sign on it.
Right.
You know, going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
You know,
Today.
right. Today. So you know, as it got kind of tough, you know, conversation, words back and forth with my aunt and the guy and his wife.
Okay.
My granddad knew exactly what that meant.
Yeah.
And he started saying that we gotta go. We got to go. Like now.
Okay.
You know, it wasn't even a minute after we were pulling off when about 5 pickup trucks pulled up with the Confederate flags on it. It was guys in the bed part, and yeah, it was
frightening.
yeah. But we really didn't understand what was going on. You know, they told us to look out the back window, and we was looking, but we actually was in the van doing some serious some serious mileage, like, you know. So yeah, that was my experience.
That was your experience.
That was my first
experience. Awesome. How about you, Todd?
It's yes, I've experienced racism. Yes. Like I said, what black man has, you know.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard not to growing up in America. Just being honest.
Yeah.
But what I hate about it is that it's so vast. It's like it's hard to keep, you know, contained, because you can go so many different topics with it. You know, so many different ways with it. I think racism, I know it exists. I think it's evil, and ultimately I think it's a spirit. I ultimately think it's a spirit because you have whites that stand up for blacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can't just look at that race and be like, oh, that racist. When you see white people out there with black power signs, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Yeah.
Right, so that whole group can't be bad if they're doing that. And all black people not bad. So I just feel like it's and that's with any race, you know, it's a bad apple, bad group in every race.
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual thing, you know.
It is.
Absolutely.
So that's I get kind of, I don't know, thrown off with that question, because I know in the back of my mind I'm thinking it's bigger than what happened to me.
Right.
That's good.
Absolutely, it
Yeah,
is. It is. I think with me, my own personal experience, and I think this was I would say this is myself. I was kind of introduced to racism when I was in grade school, and I remember leaving the class, and all of a sudden, the principal office had sent for me, and so, you know, clueless as a little kid is, you kind of want to rehearse and survey, you know, what you just did, to make sure that you know you haven't did anything principal office worthy, so to speak. And so I thought little to nothing about it because I understood my conscience was clear and so forth. So when I got down there, there was a younger, and I was in the 3rd grade, so this kid was younger. I was black, he was white, and the principal was white, and the little kid kind of nodded like, yeah, he's the person. And come to find out that this kid had, and it was an accusation. I don't know the truth about it. Not saying that it was true or it wasn't true, but he accused me of molesting him. Right? Yeah, and like I said, I don't know if this actually occurred to him, and this was, misidentification, or if there's some story fabricated. Nevertheless, I was the one that was accused of doing so. And so I remember sitting in the office being interrogated.
Wow.
And the policy of the justice system is a man is innocent
Until
proven
guilty, but I felt guilty until proven innocent. And that was the approach that he had to me, And I just thought it was strange that that they would regard me as one who could do that. I mean, I had a kind of conduct. I had excellent conduct and so forth, and so that was kind of tough to deal with at that time.
It did.
Because it was solely based on one person's testimony.
Yeah, right.
Without any witnesses, to corroborate the accusation. And so anyway, what actually got me off the hook was that I had a white counterpart. She was actually a school guard along with me. It was her testimony that eventually got me off the hook.
Wow.
And so all the while I didn't take offense to it because my conscience was clear, and I harbored no harsh feelings against the kid because I thought it was sad that he would be victimized that way. That's wrong for anybody.
Yeah.
To be done to. However, I knew I wasn't the one that he was accusing, and so that was like
That's heavy.
my
That's
introduction
huge.
into
At an early age.
racism.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Ms. Gwen?
I remember my parents separated, and I was 14 at the time, and my mom and I went to Arkansas, and I went to school there. And in the classroom setting, it wasn't just minorities in that classroom.
Okay, so it's pretty diverse.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
we have to say, they did roll call,
Okay.
and I noticed that the minority
Uh-huh.
guys were saying their name, they said their name, sir.
Mhm.
So when it came to the young ladies, that was not my race, okay?
Mhm.
And they just said present,
Okay.
or here.
Uh-huh.
So when it got to me, it said Roberson, and I said present, and he wanted me to say present, sir. And I wouldn't say sir.
So let me ask you, how about the other young ladies? Did
They
they
didn't
say?
have, no,
They
they
didn't have to
say
say.
sir.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I was sent to the principal's office.
Okay.
Wow.
And labeled
Wow.
Where were you?
that bad girl from the north,
From the north.
Where were you?
Wow.
in Arkansas.
Arkansas.
In Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Right.
And that was at the age of 14. So I knew something was wrong.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know anything about racism, but I knew that just didn't look right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it was obvious that there was a double standard there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, and you were discriminated against. So Ty, how about you?
My first encounter with racism, I was a kid. Me and a group of my friends had went up to the beach, and we hung out. You know, the typical thing to do in the summer.
Sure.
Get up with a group
Sure.
of your friends from
Yeah.
the hood,
Uh-huh.
run up to the beach. I mean, we were young. We weren't even in driving age. We were young.
Really?
Yeah.
So was this beach close to your neighborhood, or was it in
It was a ways from my neighborhood. It's funny because the Galveston goes with avenues and streets. So
Okay.
yeah, it was a way. It was about a few miles off.
Okay.
But it was nothing to us because I mean that was a part of the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you talking early '90s.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Getting your bike on.
Exactly, hop on your bike, yeah.
Yeah.
So on the way back, we split up, and as I was coming home, I looked up at this guy on his porch, and I just looked at him, and when we locked eyes, he was like, "What are you looking at?" And he used the N-word, you know.
So he was of another race.
Yeah,
His wife.
a full-grown man.
Wow.
Yeah, another
You were a
race.
kid.
Wow.
As a kid, yeah.
As a kid.
And I think about myself now as a man, I wouldn't do that to no child.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you did nothing to agitate or to
No.
cause that
I
kind
just
of.
looked at him. We
You
locked
just-
eyes. I just looked at him because he came outside on his porch.
Interesting.
Wow.
Wow.
So
Wow. So these are real life stories. These aren't fabricated. And again, we're not vilifying anyone. We're just simply saying we ourselves have been victims, and we're not the only ones. And we're not the only race that is.
No, not at all, not at all.
Racism. It
it happened.
It happens.
Yeah.
It's a human issue.
It's a human
It's a
issue,
human
yeah.
issue. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So.
All of humanity.
So we
Yeah.
talked
All
about
humanity.
we talked about it being systemic. All right, it's widespread. It's embedded in our culture.
Right.
Now the question is racism systematized? If so, what's the agenda behind it? Is it intentional? Is this a scheme of someone in power?
I think so.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think so.
to stay in power.
Yeah, the same
You
Okay.
know, sure, yeah, to stay in power, you know, you oppress
Yeah.
to stay in power. Not, everybody's not in on that. Everybody's not with that.
exactly.
Mhm. But we know it's not unusual for whoever to be in power, to devise schemes to stay in
Stay
power.
in power.
Right?
For
Absolutely.
sure.
And it don't matter what color you are.
Right, right.
I'm sure we've all been, whether we've been victims of oppression, where where it was clear that they were intentional about keeping you down. It can happen on your job.
It can happen in churches.
In church, absolutely.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's something I experienced
Wow.
in that context. And so absolutely, I do agree that there's a mind and an agenda.
Yeah.
Behind.
An agenda.
Right, racism and so forth. But I vow to say that there's a more sinister and insidious agenda that's at work exploiting the agenda of racism. And see now when we begin to talk about that higher agenda, sometimes, people have a hard time embracing the fact, but what we're saying is what Scripture has established. That ultimately, our battle, our struggle isn't against flesh and blood.
No, a
But
principality.
it's against rulers, principalities, the wicked forces of the heavenly realm,
exactly.
who have an ultimate agenda to destroy the souls of humanity.
Sure.
Absolutely. And so even in any ungodly agenda, we know that Satan is behind it, exploiting it, ultimately to cause us to forfeit the great plan and invitation of salvation and redemption of our souls and so forth. So this is nothing new to us.
No, not at all.
This is nothing new to humanity.
No.
This is typical. It typifies what ultimately the enemy of human soul is set out to do in a very subtle, which is the most effective way.
That is.
Absolutely. Now, family, in terms of, and we've all been victims of racism.
Right.
And I thank you for sharing that. Now, psychologically and emotionally, have you been affected by the scheme of racism? And if so, in what way?
You want to take this, Steve? You want me to take it?
Man, I think we all been affected by racism in some kind of way. It's, you know, even in being in an all African American community,
Yeah.
you know, you become biased because of everybody you're around.
Skin color.
Skin color,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
skin
saying?
tone,
So,
absolutely.
I know when, you know, growing up where I grew up, man, and getting a chance to go to school,
Mhm.
I went to Kent State, and man, it was a culture shock. Like I got there, man, where it was 8% black
Wow.
before Christmas, and
Wow.
after Christmas it was 2%.
Wow.
Wow.
So it was like, you know, a lot of people that you saw, you know what I'm saying, after Christmas you ain't seen them no more.
Wow.
You know, so yeah, it's definitely it's definitely that way. Yeah, it's definitely that way. It affects us all,
Wow.
mentally or subconsciously.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How about you, Tom?
Yeah, definitely affected by it. Like what Steve was saying about the race itself.
Yeah.
A lot of us, when our elders pass on or whatever, they don't have anything to leave behind.
Yeah,
You know,
That's
They
a big
don't have
issue.
nothing, you know.
that's a big issue.
Whereas on the other side, a lot of my Caucasian friends, whatever, they're born into certain things,
Yeah,
and they have things that are left behind.
Heritage.
Inheritance, yeah, exactly. Inheritance, exactly. Yeah, so
Legacy.
definitely, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah, affected by it. Yeah.
Sure. How about you, Ms.
Well, it definitely affects us all, you know, emotionally, spiritually. Yes. Because of mainly what you just said. I'm
Mhm.
thinking about that. A lot of the other race, they can leave their children homes that are paid
Yeah.
for.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but most of us, you
And
know,
that matters.
yeah, it
Yeah,
matters a
it
lot,
matters.
you know.
Well, we
Cause it
The
position.
land.
yeah,
They were given
Yeah.
land,
yeah.
but couldn't do anything with it, you know.
Right.
So with some of the land, I know in our family, a lot of our land was stolen.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, stolen from us. You know, on one side of my family,
So-
one side, but they kept it on one side, but yeah,
Well, that's one of the things that we looked at on the video.
yeah.
About having land is the biggest
Yeah.
thing
Oh
that
yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you can have
Yeah.
is having a piece of property, you know,
Right.
to be able to leave, you know, as you feel, you
So-
know, your family.
So how does that, you all being able to identify those things, how does it affect you emotionally? Has it created in you some animosity toward
It makes you
toward
feel
another
inferior.
Yeah.
inferior?
Yeah, you feel like, why, you know?
Yeah.
Because,
So hard.
you know, somebody said earlier, we didn't have a choice on our race. We didn't have a choice on
Yeah.
our, you know, ears, nose, mouth. We had no choice. That was God's business.
Yeah.
You know, we didn't choose to be the color that we are, or to be in a particular race. We didn't choose that, so.
Yeah.
That's true for everybody, no
Yeah.
one has
No
chose
one.
that had
Right.
that,
So
had
if
the
your
option to choose.
you know, nose is wider, your lips are bigger, your skin is darker, so what?
Right.
I mean,
You
Yeah,
choose.
yeah.
diversity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Obviously, God
There's
loves
beauty
that.
in
Yeah, it's gotta be.
diversity, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, he made us all.
Yeah, come on.
He made us all different colors.
Absolutely.